And now, it's time for Collector's Corner with your host, Johnny Brento.
Hello mutants, welcome to the first episode of the Collector's Corner. The Collector's Corner is sponsored by Mutantville.com and of course our main channel on YouTube.com/MutantVillePlayers. Be sure that you check that out. Essentially what you have here is a rebranding of my unboxing and the horror VHS review shows. Kind of rolled into a single package that will release on a regular schedule, and of course we'll have our own dedicated channel here. But what we're all about essentially is collecting all things horror or sci-fi, be they VHS, action figures, posters, primarily originals, toys. So if you're interested in that sort of thing, this show might have something for you. So thanks for watching, and let's see where we can take this. Hello my friends, welcome to another episode of Collector's Corner here at VHS Graveyard. Every occasion of new purchase is worth celebrating, so that's what we're here doing today. We're going to kick the series off with just sharing a recent haul of VHS and talking a bit about why I like to collect VHS, and hopefully you do too. We'll start with some recent acquisitions from the local flea market / marketplace. I found one particular vendor. First off, there's probably 4 or 5 folks there that have booths that sell VHS. The place is completely unair conditioned right now, and this part of North Carolina it's about 98 degrees most days. So I was in there the other day trying to get in and out pretty quick, and I discovered this one booth that had a bunch of quirky B-movie sci-fi type things, some fantasy, lots of horror, and I thought, hey, you know, I'm down with the exploitation, so here we go without further delay. This film is called Savage Dawn. Looks like a biker exploitation picture, and I paid 50 cents for that one. This one I actually own in a big box. It's called Warrior of the Lost World. The big box really looks excellent. But, you know, again, 50 cents, and I thought, wow, you know, one of those 2 tapes is bound to play, right? This is a goofy little thing. The Borrowers. I never even knew that the modern remake with John Goodman was a remake. I never knew that was original, so that's pretty cool to make a discovery like that. Here's something with our buddy Scott Bakula called. It's a 2 tape set called The Invaders. So I guess it's some sort of mini series. Actually looks really cool. So paid $2 for that. And here we go. Let's replace this so we don't lose our lighting. Let's hold our lighting there. Alien Contamination looks like a really old sci-fi, but what I thought was cool about this one is that it has like an animated type picture on the back. Maybe the whole thing is animated. The front picture looks like it could be a real person. Another thing stood out in music by the band Goblin, who famously did the soundtrack for Suspiria, which has one of the most unique soundtracks I've ever heard. Here's a episode of Monsters. Again, $1. Yep, $1 for that. Awesome illustrated cover on this. Stryker, a warrior of tomorrow on the highway to hell. Now how is that for some cheese? Check that out. The graphic art on this is really cool. That 9 times out of 10 is what gets me to purchase an old VHS tape. John Carpenter's Assault on Precinct 13. I was actually bent down, my knees were aching. I was looking at the bottom shelf of this basically book cabinet filled with VHS. I saw this one, and what I said to myself was, this is why I do this shit. I don't own this film. I'm not even sure I've ever seen the original of this. I believe I've seen part of it. I know that I missed out when it played at Cinema Overdrive, and I really wanted to see that show, but we had other things going on with MVP, and there's just no way I could do it. So unfortunately, I didn't get to see that. But now I have the VHS, and it cost me, what? $1. Something cool looking called The Contaminated Man, starring William Hurt. Little is Vice-exploitation a subgenre? I don't know. Called Naked City, A Killer Christmas, starring Scott Glenn, who kicks ass in everything he's in. He's a badass, so typically pick up his movies if I can. So, just trying to maintain some sort of order with our structure here. We will just shuffle the deck. Ah, City Slickers too. Just got that to watch for the kids. A Gina Gershon picture where she's basically a bad A cop, as if she's ever cast as anything else, called Black and White. You know, Gina Gershon. That's enough said. Lake Placid. Really, really like this film. I keep trying to give the franchise a chance beyond the original, but darn it, they just keep going with those CGI alligators. And I have seen a couple of good, crocodiles. I have seen a couple of good crocodile films that feature CGI pretty predominantly, but none of them touched the original. Lake Placid is an awesome, awesome monster movie. You know, of course, if you consider a naturally existing creature in the world, a monster. Straw Dogs, Dustin Hoffman, $1. Haven't seen that yet, but it's pretty good. Creepazoids, $1, even though it says $1.49. They were having a sale. This actually got from the little concession stand right next to our nutrition store, so that was cool. Canon Home Video produced this one called Journey to the Center of the Earth. Now, it's some, in-between remake. It's not the original. It's not the one with Brendan Fraser, Armed and Dangerous, Cleveland Clef, a.k.a. The Master, and David Carradine. Has a really cool shot of David on the back, just firing like a magnum or something. It looks really awesome. Miss Congeniality, that was a throwaway. I think my daughter slipped that in the cart. Nemesis, Oliver Grenier. Kind of a sci-fi, just because Oliver's in it, I'm betting it has some martial arts aspect. It seems very familiar to me. I'm not sure if I saw this film. Paid $1 for it, so now I'll be able to, for sure. The Philadelphia Experiment. Fantastic cover on this box. Really very cool. Here's a little female cop type, exploitation picture, I guess you'd call it. It's called Excessive Force 2. Force on Force. And the box art and the sweet looking blonde on the front. Sold that one. Lily Cat anime. I like the story, so I was intrigued enough to pick it up. And then lastly from this haul, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, 50 cents. Box is a little banged up. I didn't own this on VHS, so I thought, why not, right? So that's about all of the VHS for this haul. Now, before we close out here, I will talk about something else that's recently caught my attention, and that is Walmart's tendency to do bundles for its DVDs, and there are some fantastic deals. Before we get into that, I did pick up a few DVDs, which when I see a good DVD, I generally, again, I'll pay slightly more for a DVD, but I have about 1,000 DVDs right now, so it's got to be something I want. And there's a whole debate about Blu-ray. For me, I haven't seen enough extras to really switch over entirely to Blu-ray. I mean, there's a few discs out there that have incredible behind-the-scenes content, but for the most part, that's not the case. So I pick up DVDs, catch as catch can, when I can pay $5 or less, and it's one that I like, and I may have it in VHS or don't actually own the DVD. I'll pick it up. Case in point, Fists of Fury, Bruce Lee, one of the better Bruce Lee films in my opinion. I paid $1 for this. Legend of 8 Samurai, Sonny Chiba. I'm sure that's awful, as is most films with Sonny Chiba. District 9, fantastic film. I think I might have already had this, but it was $1, so I thought, can't pass that up. On to the blockbuster bundles. I picked up, which I have already actually put it in the rack, but I picked up the Feast trilogy for $13. Thought that was a good grab. I already owned Feast, but I didn't have the second 2 films. Frankly, and this is my buddy Strebo and I differ on this one, I really loved Feast, and I could tolerate the second one. I thought the second one was a considerable step down. The third one is a real POS, in my humble opinion. Unless you just really are able to let go and kind of go with it, which I'm going to try to give it one more shot, because I like Gulager, and I think he's pretty clever. I like his style, but it seemed like they were just thumbing their nose at the studio by the time the third one rolled around, and it just lost me. I watched Project Greenlight, that of course famously being the first film to make money with the reality show Project Greenlight, and seeing all the abuse that he suffered at the hands of the studio, it was pretty sweet. you know, seeing that he actually managed to make a horror film which they were against from the very beginning, and they just were resistant to the whole idea. But, you know, things turned out, and he was able to get a pretty good cast, and just did a great job directing the original Feast. If you haven't seen that film, what are you doing? Go get it. If you like monster movies, it's good. You know, so glad to see that he was able to make 2 more, but I really felt kind of offended by just the way the story was ridiculous. Just totally ridiculous. I was like, well, come on, man. Why am I watching the 3rd installment of this franchise if it's not going to make any damn sense, which it did not. But, you know, I think the flip side of that is if you just let go and you go with it and you realize that that's what they're doing, that they're just flipping off the studio, you know, they're just doing whatever they can imagine because they're like, they won't believe we'll do this crazy shit, you know, and we'll just do it, you know. I mean, I don't know. That's not what I get into in my films. So I picked up a 4-pack for $5. Dracula's Curse, something called Bled, Bram Stoker's Dracula's Guest, and Fangs. They look kind of like sci-fi films, but $5, wow. So I think I probably got 2 or 3 of these. I'm not quite sure where they got out to. I guess I've already put them up. I'm actually sure I got 3 of those, but I can't remember what the other ones were. So that's it for the first episode of the new format here of the show. As you can see, I'm a collector, and we are, in fact, in a corner that's filled with all of my stuff. I'll share the layout, and I've got my my library over here with probably, I don't know, over 1,000 different pieces of media. You know, I was able to inherit some fantastic racks from Blockbuster, so that sort of created the space, you know, to be able to get all this stuff in one room, and you know, thusly was born Collector's Corner. Of course, Collector's Corner is the generic title that we've always used with Mutantville for the shows that we publish related to collecting or classics on Tuesdays. If you follow Mutantville.com. If you don't follow Mutantville.com, get on over there and check it out. We have regularly scheduled releases, and on that note, this channel and this show will be committed to release once a week. I'll post it on, I'll try to release over the weekend, and I will post it on Mutantville.com on Tuesdays for Collector's Corner. Be sure to check in next week when we'll be talking about the film Curse and its subsequent sequels. Thanks for watching, my friends. I'll see you next time.
Hello, mutants. I'm Utisha, the movie goddess, and you're watching Mutant TV.